In a quaint Midwestern town nestled within cornfields, a peculiar entity known as Sawtooth Jack rouses from slumber each Halloween with a singular mission, reaching the local church. Hence, they uphold an annual tradition termed the Run. All teenage boys of the town embark on a pursuit to vanquish Sawtooth Jack before midnight, savoring the hidden candy within his remains. The triumphant slayer earns hero status, a family home, $25,000, a car, and rare permission to leave the ordinarily secluded town. This endeavor is believed to bless the harvest, with participation limited to boys and one son per family. In the year 1962, a group of masked youths ventures forth to hunt the elusive monster. Among them, a lone, trembling figure stands on the road, gripped by fear and uncertainty. Abruptly, Sawtooth Jack materializes behind him, and the terrified youth's scream heralds his untimely demise. Moments later, the boys stumble upon their fallen comrade's blazing remains, and behold Sawtooth Jack amidst the cornfield's heart. An incensed Jim launches a relentless pursuit, closing in as the monster nears the church. In a climactic confrontation, Jim overpowers and vanquishes the creature, seizing a share of candy from Jack's lifeless form. The jubilant group erupts in celebratory howls, marking Jim's triumph. Subsequently, the Harvesters Guild hosts Halloween revelry to commemorate the successful run, rewarding Jim with his prizes. Jim's younger brother, Richie, pleads to accompany him, but Jim merely bestows a hug and an "I love you" before departing town in his new car. A year later, Sheriff Jerry visits the school, underscoring the vital significance of the run by recounting a year when Sawtooth Jack survived, causing crop devastation. Jim becomes a perennial hero figure, vexing Richie, who yearns to participate, but remains bound by the rules. Ridicule rains down on Richie from Riley, who mocks his desire to volunteer when the others have no choice. Doubts circulate among some teens, dismissing Sawtooth Jack as a mere adult in disguise, yet Bud swears to have glimpsed the entity outside his window during his childhood, incurring more ridicule from Riley. The ensuing scuffle is promptly quelled by adults. After school, Richie is tailed by Riley, prompting him to take refuge in a movie theater. There, he encounters Kelly, a newcomer in town, and their conversation sparks a connection. Richie invites her to the Halloween dance, only for her to reveal that racial restrictions bar her attendance. Richie vows to challenge this rule should he triumph in the run. Later, Richie confers with loyal friends Bud and Mitch, who've heard unsettling rumors about Kelly, but Richie remains steadfast in his belief. His friends encourage him to defy the rules and join the run, despite being slower than his brother. In the evening, Richie receives a postcard from Jim, his estranged brother, who disappeared after his run victory. Richie confronts his parents, declaring his intent to defy the rules and join the run. An intense argument escalates, resulting in Dan's harsh slap, further fueling Richie's determination. He retreats to his room, fleeing through the window to rendezvous with Jim's ex-partner, sharing a night of smoking. Simultaneously, in the cornfields, the farmer approaches an empty scarecrow post, carving a pumpkin, only for Sawtooth Jack to materialize, wearing the newly fashioned gourd as a head. The following day, Richie is ambushed by Riley, enduring a beating and the theft of his belt, a cherished relic of his bond with Jim. Desperate, Richie brandishes a knife in defense, but Riley prevails and departs. Returning home, Richie finds a letter from Jim, apologizing for his long silence and urging him not to join the run, citing their parents' need for him. Weary of being treated as a child, Richie resorts to car theft for an escape. However, upon reaching the open road and crossing the bridge, Jerry intercepts his path. Richie's escape attempt is thwarted as Jerry incapacitates him upon exiting the stolen car. That night, parents confine their children to their rooms to prevent evasion and heighten their desperation for the impending run. The boys pound on doors and clamor for sustenance and restroom breaks, but their pleas go unanswered. This 3-day seclusion aims to unnerve and stoke their hunger for the run. On Halloween night, the farmer readies Sawtooth Jack with candy, liberating him. In town, teenage boys are unleashed to claim the streets. Richie awakens to Dan discussing a promising job offer, but he yearns solely for the run. His parents, Dan and Donna, implore him to stay, but their pleas fall on deaf ears, and Richie departs. Elsewhere, Bud, Charlie, and Mitch exploit a truck for an edge in the run. Accusations of cheating arise, quickly quelled by Mitch's intimidation. Richie eventually joins them, but a hostile group returns, damaging the truck. Mitch fends them off while Richie distracts them with food, enabling their getaway. As they leave town, the group dons masks, noticing the butcher guarding against hungry boys with a weapon. Some onlookers hurl objects at their truck, decrying it as cheating. In the cornfields, excitement surges among most, yet Bud harbors terror, haunted by a past encounter with Sawtooth Jack outside his window. Unlike his companions, he resists the venture, Suddenly, the truck strikes something, compelling Mitch to halt to avoid a collision. When the vehicle refuses to restart, they exit, finding the road clear but candy-strewn near the cornfield. They rush to consume it, assuming they've vanquished Sawtooth Jack. However, a sound redirects their attention to the monster's presence in the field. In mere moments, Charlie and Bud succumb to the creature. When Mitch searches for the bodies, he too falls prey. Subsequently, Sawtooth Jack fixates on Richie, emitting a deafening roar, prompting the boy's frantic flight. He doesn't halt until he reaches an empty stand, encountering a rule-breaker Kelly, mirroring his defiance. To Richie's astonishment, Bud reappears, having feigned death to escape, and races back to town. However, his parents rebuff him, urging him to face the challenge of their financial needs. While pondering his options, Bud crosses paths with Sawtooth Jack, fleeing until he locates a shelter with boys seeking a hefty admission fee. Cashless, Bud's arrival sparks a dispute, but amidst the clamor, one boy opens the door, unwittingly exposing Bud to the relentless creature. Nearby, a terrified child witnesses Sawtooth Jack entering the shelter, massacring the teens, creating a gruesome spectacle. Richie and Kelly unite, realizing the necessity for better armaments. They return to town, covertly infiltrating Jerry's residence to secure a firearm and some beer. While in Jerry's house, Richie witnesses his terrified father frantically knocking on the door, but departs when met with silence. Dan searches for Jerry in a neighbor's home. Seizing the opportunity, Richie and Kelly pilfer a police car. As Jerry emerges to confront Dan, the kids speed away, evading his gunfire. En route, they catch a radio report of the monster sighting downtown and rush there. Main Street teems with chaos as teens ransack stores for provisions. The butcher resists, killing a few boys before succumbing, and the mob seizes his meat. Richie and Kelly, appalled, encounter Riley, who belittles Kelly for her gender and employs a racial slur. Riley's comrade seizes Kelly, prompting Richie to defend her, overpowering both with his newfound aggression. Kelly joins in, striking them with her club, and Richie reclaims his belt before they depart. Elsewhere, the remaining boys teeter on the brink, resorting to violence against one another. Sawtooth Jack soon stalks a trio wandering alone. Not far from the encounter, Richie confides in Kelly, expressing disbelief in the rumors surrounding her. Kelly confirms having set fire to a racist old man's barn. Richie shares his longing for his estranged brother, who communicates solely through postcards, while Kelly reveals her parents' demise. Their conversation halts upon hearing a radio report of Sawtooth Jack's sighting on Oak Street. Unaware it's a ruse and Jerry is setting a trap, they head in that direction. On Oak Street, they discover a bloodied statue before Sawtooth Jack materializes. Richie, noticing the monster wearing his brother's belt, hesitates, allowing Kelly to strike with her club. In response, Sawtooth Jack hits her and vanishes as Richie tends to her. A neighbor forces them to leave, brandishing a threat. Returning to the car, they encounter Jerry, who levels his gun at Richie through the window. Jerry insults Kelly's parents, admitting to killing them when they attempt to leave town. Enraged, Kelly strikes him, inadvertently causing his gun to discharge, grazing her head. Richie intervenes, shoving Jerry away, and they flee the car. Meanwhile, Sawtooth Jack visits Jim's former residence, discovering the wall covered in messages from Jim's confinement before past runs. Horrified, the monster incinerates the building. Nearby, Dan confronts Jerry, objecting to their actions. Jerry insists the town must perform the ritual, citing a tragic past loss when it was neglected. Dan, though tearful, can't oppose a police officer. They reach Richie's home, where Donna appears heavily medicated. Richie inquires about past winners, realizing they either distanced themselves or died in accidents. Suspecting Donna wrote the postcards and letter instead of Jim, Richie grows suspicious. Desperate for the truth, Richie pleads with his mother, but Donna insists this must end and takes her own life. Her final words affirm Richie's suspicions. The winners aren't living luxuriously but are sacrifices, allowing Sawtooth Jack to return to their bodies the next year. While Kelly yearns to leave town, Richie resolves to halt the cycle. Downtown, locals fret over the blazing inferno at Jim's old house. Riley informs Jerry of Sawtooth Jack's presence, prompting Jerry to provide him with a gun in hopes of making him this year's winner. Richie and Kelly head to the church to confront Sawtooth Jack, encountering Dan inside. A tense altercation ensues, with Richie branding his father a monster. Dan discloses that parents remain ignorant until their sons win, bound to secrecy by the ruthless Jerry and the Harvesters Guild. Dan implores Richie to flee and let him confront Sawtooth Jack, but his world shatters upon learning of Donna's demise. At that moment, the church bell tolls, and Sawtooth Jack materializes outside. Richie rushes to embrace the wounded figure, addressing him as Jim, to convey his non-threatening intent. Tragically, Riley intervenes, shooting the monster. Kelly confronts Riley as Richie cradles Jack, Jerry compels Riley to take another shot, but Richie thwarts him with Riley's gun. In a surprising turn, Sawtooth Jack gestures for an end to his suffering. In a bid to conclude the ordeal, Richie apologizes to his brother and pulls the trigger. The boys eagerly collect the candy, and Jerry commends Richie for his triumph, though Richie feels numb. At the ensuing party, his mood remains somber, but he dances and kisses Kelly, defying bigotry as an interracial couple. Kelly discreetly provides him with a gun, and they plan to flee together. After the celebration, Richie departs in his new car, ignoring Jim's ex's request to accompany him. Meanwhile, Dan confronts Jerry for revenge, but Jerry overpowers him. Shortly after, Richie picks up Kelly, and they embark on their journey out of town. In a frantic bid to escape, Richie speeds away in his car, narrowly avoiding a collision before coming to a halt. He instructs Kelly to hide, exits the car, and is forced into the cornfields by Jerry, who wields a gun. Upon reaching the vacant stand, Richie abruptly turns and shoots Jerry twice, ending his life. However, the ordeal is far from over as the farmer arrives, striking Richie's head and causing him to fall into a grave he had prepared. Defending himself with a knife, Richie pleads for mercy, but the farmer shatters his hand and proceeds to bury him alive. The farmer, having been the one to block Richie's car, departs. Kelly emerges from her hiding spot and finding Dan, who urges her to escape the town. Tearfully, Kelly departs without further interference. A year later, the farmer unearths Richie's body and prepares the pumpkin, which transforms into Richie's new Sawtooth Jack head. On Halloween night, Dan releases the monster, addressing him as Richie. When the farmer reappears, Dan kills him, commanding his monstrous son to set the town ablaze.